Welcome back to topic 2. Today we're going to talk about two theorems, the multiply theorem for exponents as well as the quotient theorem. Let's look at our first example. For multiplying, this only works when we have the same variable. So if you look at our rule, this has x and this has x. So we have the same basis, so this theorem will apply. So let's look at the first example. We have 2 to the third times 2 to the fourth. So let's write this out first. So 2 to the third is going to be 2 times 2 times 2. And 2 to the fourth is going to look like 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. So if we add all our bases up, the green and our blue, we are going to have 2 to the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 7th power, which is the same as saying 3 plus 4, which is 7. Now let's look at our next example. Do you see how 4 and 6, if we multiply that, those aren't the same basis. So this is not an example. Our bases are not the same, so we can't apply this theorem. Let's look at some practice problems. So our bases are the same. We have 2, 2, and 2. So we know our base is going to be 2. And now let's add our exponents. 4 plus 5 plus 2. So 4 plus 5 is 9. 9 plus 2 is 11. So this is going to be 2 to the 11th power. Okay, and you can simplify it even farther by doing 2 to the 11th power, which is 2,048. So let's look at our next one. If you see here, we have a whole number 7. And remember, when a number is not outside our variable, there's a 1 hanging out there. So 7 times 1 is 7. And there's no variables there, or exponents, I mean. So we're going to leave that the same. Okay? Now we're going to have b as our base, and 2 plus 5 equals 7. So our simplified exponent equation is going to be 7b to the 7th power. Our next one, we are going to have a as our base, 2 plus, then we're going to add our exponents. 2 plus 3 is 5, 5 plus 3 is 8. Over here, we're going to multiply 6 and 5 first, and we're going to get 30. And we're going to add our bases together. 3 plus 4 is 7. Now remember, if 6 or 5 had an exponent to it, we couldn't multiply them. They'd have to stay the same. All right, now for our next one, a little trickier. We're going to first do our whole numbers. All right, so negative 2 times 5 is negative 10. Negative 10 times 7 is going to be negative 70. Oops, help if I write them with the pen. Oh, just not the pen. There we go. All right, now let's do the s's. I have s to the third and s to the fourth. So 3 plus 4 is 7. Here I'm going to have t and t to the second, and this is going to be t to the first power. 2 plus 1 is 3. All right, now the next step looks very similar to this. It's simplifying. So our first step with simplifying is we want to arrange them so they all are in the same, so each letter is next to each other. So we're going to have x to the fourth, x to the third, y to the second, and y to the second. And again, you could have put y in the first and then x afterwards. It doesn't really matter. Now we're going to apply the same theorem. We're going to add our exponents that have similar bases. So x, 4 plus 3 equals 7. Y, 2 plus 2 is 4. Over here, we're going to put the same bases. We have 5 squared. And you can put a multiplication sign in between if you'd like. And then a 5, x to the third times x to the fifth. And remember, since 5 doesn't have an exponent, we're assuming 1 is it. And 5, and then 2 plus 1 is 3. And x, 3 plus 5 is 8. All right, our next setup is going to look for division. Division is pretty much like multiplication. Instead of adding, we are going to subtract. Now, there's one step we can do is work it out. So here we have x to the fifth. So I wrote out 5 x's. Okay. Our next one was x to the second, so I wrote out 2 x's. Now we want to cancel out. So we're going to cross off 1 from each. one from each, leaving me x to the third power. Since it's a positive number, it's going to be written up top. Let's focus on this one. Now we're going to have 4 to the 6 and 4 to the 2. So since we have the same base, it's going to stay the same, and 6 minus 2 equals 4. Over here, we're going to first simplify 28 over 7. And 28 divided by 7 is 4. Now we're going to do 3 minus 5. So we have to remember our rules of exponents, of integers, sorry. So 3 minus 5 is going to be -2. Perfect. So we don't want to write this with a negative exponent. So 4 is going to stay up top and x to the second on the bottom. If you need to see why x to the second is, we can write it out. So that would be x to the third. And this is going to be x to the fifth. And we can cancel out what we have going on. So that cancels out, that cancels out, that cancels out. So I have 2 x's in the denominator, and I have 2 x's in my denominator answer. Let's keep going. So -12 divided by 4 is going to be -3. 3 minus 2 for s is going to be 1. And 5 minus 3 for t is going to be 2. Over here, 6 divided by 3 is going to be 2. 7 minus 4 is going to be 3. Over here, we're going to have 28 divided by 7, which is 4. We're going to have p, 3 minus 2 is 1. For q, 2 minus 3 is -1. And we can write this using a positive exponent, using 4p up top over q. Finally, we're going to have -5. A is 2 minus 2 is 0. B, 6 minus 4 is 2. And we can write that 0, we can unwrite it and just write it b squared. Now, unfortunately, not all our expressions are going to simplify the way that the top part did. So when we have 24 over 16, we're going to simplify it like you normally simplify a fraction. So 24 and 16, the biggest, our common multiple is going to be 8. So 24 divided by 8 is 3. 16 divided by 8 is 2. And then we follow the rules. So x3 minus 1 is going to leave us with 2 x's on top. y5 minus 9 is going to be our x's, our y. Sorry, I messed that up a little bit. So sorry, that was y. And so we're going to have 2 at the bottom again. So we're going to have 2. And then y is not subtracting from anything, so y to the 5th is going to stay upstairs. Over here, we have 15 and 25. Remember, our most common multiple is going to be 5. So 15 divided by 5 is 3. 25 divided by 5 is 5. And x, 9 minus 5 is 4. Since it's positive, it's going to be in our numerator. Our next step, what you're going to be doing is you're going to again write summary in 3 or 4 sentences, right, using your words that you think about this lesson. If you have any questions about this lesson, write it down here. If you don't, see if you can come up with your own problem and your answer. Good luck.